only one place to start, right? Big news, big news.
We've spent the last 2 months talking about these U.S. Soccer Federation vacancies. A big one is about to be filled. There are widespread reports that U.S. Soccer is set to hire Matt Crocker as the new sporting director. We're taping this on a Monday. They've announced a press conference tomorrow in which presumably they're going to reveal him as the new sporting director. He comes from Southampton, where he was director of football operations. Previous to that, he worked for the FA, overseeing England's youth teams during a period of great success for England at youth level, in which they pumped out lots of good players and won the Under-17 and Under-20 World Cups. I must confess, I had never heard of this guy until the last couple days, but at least on paper, based on his resume, he seems to be an intriguing choice.
Yeah, credit should go also to The Athletic that broke this story, and this is a big story within our soccer world, and maybe it has tentacles outside of it to a certain extent, because I think people recognize that the United States Soccer Federation is in this moment of change. Some would call it turmoil. I don't necessarily think it is. I just think it's a moment of change, and the pressures and the frustration and the exasperation certainly coming from outside about these roles not being filled, and therefore us kind of being in stasis. I don't think that there is a whole lot of knowledge when it comes to the American side of this of Mr. Crocker, but as far as a resume goes, I think he checks some boxes here or there with both work in men's and women's. Because keep in mind, this is the position for sporting director that Ernie Stewart vacated, and this oversees all of that competitive side of national teams, men's and women's, both sides. So he would be coming in and being, for example, the boss of Kate Margraf. And then we still don't know yet whether the Brian McBride role is going to be filled as a GM specifically to the men's team. But if there was a person that came in that position, then I would assume he would also be the boss of that person. But I think his first order of business when he comes in is to sort out the men's side and get a coach in as soon as possible. Again, if this is all true, and we're going off of good reporting, and where there is smoke, there is fire. I do think that the justification for this hire is going to be expected, maybe more so than it has been in the past, given the history and how did this all come about, who else was interviewed, what was the interview process, why was this individual ahead of the rest. Look, I just want a warm body at this point, and if this is the body that they're going with, great. I wish him all the luck in the world. I want him to be successful. I want him to lead us, hopefully, on and off the field to positive and successful things, not the least of which is, I suppose he would be in before the Women's World Cup and then into 2026. So that there is actual movement, that there is an actual human being, that's great. I look forward to U.S. Soccer explaining how the process, because this is the world that they have created, where we need to know everything and how and why this was actually done. And I don't know if that's something we shouldn't know, but I think that it deserves an explanation as to how they came to this decision, because this is an important position of leadership with power and with influence at a time when we cannot afford to get this wrong.
Now, in the wake of the Berhalter Reina Michigas, there's been this growing sentiment that U.S. Soccer needed to hire a quote-unquote outsider. And lots of people, including recent guest of this podcast, Taylor Twellman, are praising this appointment for that reason. You have kind of bristled at those suggestions. So does the fact that this guy is a quote-unquote outsider in any way enhance his candidacy to you or diminish it, or what do you make of it?
I think it enhances the image of USSF. And keep in mind, this might not have been if this is the choice, this may not have been their first choice. There may have been others. We already heard rumors that there were those that turned this position down and just said, for whatever reason, it could be money, it could be the headache, it could be a perception, whether it's the reality or not, of a problematic organization that's going to take a lot to fix and not a job that somebody wanted to do. But absolutely, Mosse, I think that whether it's the reality or the perception, I think that the United States Soccer Federation is and has been incredibly sensitive to the outside critique and criticism and accusations of, whether it's the nepotism or the cronyism or the systemic old boy, old girl network that exists. And so, maybe in a certain sense that can hurt somebody that is of that community. But this is what has been created. And so this is the reality of what's going on. You can't tell me that there is not somebody who has been around American soccer, who has a history, that has a knowledge, and has success within American soccer that isn't available and couldn't do this job. Maybe that person was interviewed. Who knows? Maybe that person doesn't want to do it. So there are quality candidates out there that are quote unquote American, not even quote unquote. They are American relative to Crocker. But again, all of the criticism that came and the worry that it was just going to be another one of the people that we know. This is, on the surface, going outside of that. And maybe that's good. But don't think for a second that he or anybody else doesn't come with their own set of baggage and their own set of history and their own set of biases when it comes to the things that they do. And that's normal because last I checked, he is a human being. And so all of us humans are going to come with that. But, I don't care where the person ultimately is from. I want them to do a good job. I want them to be able to set a course that is achievable, that is to a certain extent visionary, and that gets us to a better place.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.